is on a motion for an urgent public importance. And standing on a dictum that a stitch in time saves 9. And the motion is on the need to stop the implementation of the so-called Bama initiative by non-statutory committees and remit same to Presidential Committee on the Northeast Initiative, which is set up by Presidential Proclamation for proper mandatory execution. And I have two motions to move here that I seek the leave of the Speaker, I seek the leave of the House to take this motion, and also Rule 7 to suspend all our relevant rules so that we can take them and treat them concurrently and get it done today, because it's something that is about to happen, and I think we can use our Privilege and Powers Act to stop it so that injuries cannot be done further to both our rules of law and to our citizens. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I so move.
Honorable O.C. Prestige. Those against it say nay. The ayes have it. Honorable Dr. M.S., you can now take your motion.
Very esteemed colleagues, I stand here with a lot of sense of responsibility to move this motion of urgent public importance on the need to stop the implementation of a so-called initiative called the Bama Initiative in the Northeast by non-statutory committees and remit same to Presidential Committee on the Northeast Initiative, which was mandatorily set up by Presidential Proclamation for proper mandatory execution. Mr. Speaker, the House notes with dismay the plethora of complaints and rumblings in the main social media and the nicks and fabrics of our communities and societies, particularly in the Northeast and the North and all over, well-meaning Nigerians who are aware of this, regarding the alleged intended abnormal movement of appropriated Northeast Intervention Fund meant to be domiciled and utilized by the Presidential Committee on the Northeast Initiative and that of the consolidated pool account domiciled in the Office of Accountant General of the Federation. The House also notes that the above funds to be moved to a special account is meant to fund a pilot project called the Bama Initiative, BI. Number 3, the Bama Initiative, as conceived, is not meant to be handled by the statutory Presidential Committee on the Northeast Initiative, PCNI, but by 2 non-statutory, non-place specific committees floating between the Ministry of Budget and Planning and National Planning and the Presidency. Mr. Speaker, sir, already there was a move to tap onto our 48 billion naira, which is properly budgeted for, appropriated for, assented to, and is now the 2017 Act, 28 billion out of it, 18 billion which is meant for the PCNI account, and 10 billion from the consolidated pool account are not being moved through proper and approved regulated financial flow systems of the government. What I mean here, either through supplementary budget, through environment, or direct capital releases as enunciated by the 2017 Act. Mr. Speaker, the House is so worried that if the movement in fact, this illegal movement of funds is allowed to go through, it will lead to serious breaches of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the 2017 Appropriation Act, the financial regulations, the extant rules, and on all other rules and standard charters of service delivery of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. On this end, Mr. Speaker, sir, I so move that the House look at this very, very carefully and urge and call the attention of Mr. President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, General or President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, to graciously direct the immediate stoppage of all activities behind these pilot projects and stop the movement of these funds and restore law and order in the system. Secondly, this House has worked on something which is a little bit more permanent and more institutional, and we urge Mr. President to graciously assent to the Northeast Development Commission bill before him and to expedite action for immediate takeoff of the agency for comprehensive institutional management of the Northeast redevelopment. I so move, Mr. Speaker, and I ask the leave of the House to debate robustly this and support this motion so that we can achieve this objective. A stitch in time saves 9. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
MS, you may now lead the debate.
I want to say, Mr. Speaker, with all sense of responsibility, that in a situation where today, in Maiduguri alone, in one of the biggest IDP camps, we have an endemic outbreak of cholera with about 4,000 cases and 50 to 60 deaths, in a situation whereby the youth of Bama have been agitated to be moved to their natural environment for the past 1 year, and a lot of them are being incarcerated in prison detention camps because of their desperation. Mr. Speaker, in a situation where the Presidential Committee on the North Initiative, which is established by presidential proclamation, which is has a force of law, backed up by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as a transitory body set up by the President, Federal Republic of Nigeria, to be the apex agency in coordinating all interventions in the Northeast region by the public and private sector, by national and international development partners, and by all non-government organizations, faith-based organizations, community-based organizations, and so on, have not received a single kobo legally appropriated to it in the 2017 Appropriation Act. Not a single kobo. Sir, because of the palpable lack of funds, this august presidential agency cannot coordinate the myriad activities of the NGOs and all the other bodies. Particularly, they cannot control, they cannot monitor the self-acclaimed spendings on the emergency aspect of the rehabilitation, reintegration, and return programs, where millions of US dollars is melting away without monitoring, without targeting. Sir, where all the IDP camps are now turning into internally desperation camps, internally deprivation camps, internally despair camps, sir, a lot of frustration, a lot of inbuilt of energy is now about to explode. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I now submit that we are about to witnessing this flagrant disregard to the humanitarian situation and to total lack of sympathy, empathy, compassion, or indeed an expropriation of simple humanity. Mr. Speaker, about 58.33% of the 48 billion appropriately is likely to move channels without recourse to the rule of law. That is what is bothering us here. The Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, sir, is about to be desecrated. So also the 2017 Appropriation Act and the Fundamental Financial Regulations, Actors Rule, Standard Chartered Service Delivery, and of course the Procurement Act are all being bastardized if we allow this to go through. Mr. Speaker, sir, we should not allow this rule of law to be assassinated by our noses, on our footsteps. Sir, please, Honorable House, we are the true representatives of the people. Nigeria is a whole. We have just enacted a unity committee to unite, to forge, and look forward, not backward. Mr. Speaker, sir, I am praying that we use all our powers, constitutional, legislative powers and privilege act, and any other supervisory, oversight, whatever means, and so on, to not only rescue the ravaged Northeast, but fundamentally to restore rule of law all over Nigeria. As the last bastion of democracy, people's representatives, and the last beacon of hope for this nascent democracy, I once again pray that my prayers in the main motion should be looked at carefully, and probably some of our members I know have good ideas for better things that we can do, and I so submit, I so pray. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.